चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की गंगा देवी की जय, यमुना देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय। ओ glories to the single devotees, Hare Krishna. O glory to the single devotees, Hare Krishna. O glories to the single devotees, Hare Krishna. O glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru Govinda. Panchakapatruvyascha Kripasindudevi Patitanam Books with Maitreya. So we're reading text 21. Bhavam Bhagavato Nityam Samata Sanugasyaha Yasya Jnanopadeshaya Madishad Bhagavan Rajan Bhavan Bhagavato Nityam Samata Sanugasyaha Yasya Jnanopadeshaya Adishad Bhagavan Rajan. Sorry, I forgot to recite the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So please repeat word for word. Bhavan, your good self. Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. Nityam, eternal. Samataha, recognized. Sa Anugasya, one of the associates. Ha, have been. Yasya, of whom. Jnana, knowledge. Upadeshaya, for instructing. Ma, unto me. Adishat, so ordered. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Rajan, while returning to his abode. Translation. Your good self is one of the eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whose sake the Lord, while going back to his abode, left instructions with me. Please repeat. Your good self is one of the eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whose sake the Lord, while going back to his abode, left instructions with me. Yamaraj, the great controller of life after death, decides the living entities' destinies in their next lives. He is surely among the most confidential representatives of the Lord. Such confidential posts are offered to great devotees of the Lord who are as good as his eternal associates in the spiritual sky. And because Vidura happened to be among them, the Lord, while returning to Vaikuntha, left instructions for Vidura with Maitreya Muni. Generally, the eternal associates of the Lord in the spiritual sky do not come to the material world. Sometimes they come, however, by the order of the Lord, not to hold any administrative post, but to associate with the Lord in person or to propagate the message of God in human society. Such empowered representatives are called Shaktavesha avatars, or incarnations invested with transcendental power of attorney. I seek the blessings of all the devotees that I can speak something that is beneficial for myself and for all of us, and it can penetrate our hearts, and that we can apply this knowledge that we are so fortunate to have received deep within our hearts. So in this purport, it says that Yamaraj is the great controller of life and death. So in the Western society, he is known um, as the Grim Reaper, is it? Grim Reaper. But actually, he's not terrifying looking or vicious. It's just those, and his representatives also. They don't look vicious, but only they look very terrifying to the people who are acting in a demoniac manner, who are acting against the Lord. So Yamaraj is a great devotee of the Lord, and the devotees of the Lord are very beautiful, inside and outside. And so Yamaraj, he decides the destinies of all the living entities, depending on, um, in human society, it depends whether we've done good things or we've done bad things. So it depends, like we go to a bank and we have bank account, and if we use up all our credit, that means all our pious credits, then we go into a negative. So depending on what bad activities we done, we go lower and lower into the evolutionary cycle, or we go to lower planetary systems to suffer, or we go to higher planetary systems to enjoy. But the goal of life is not to go up and down like on a Ferris wheel, go up and down continuously in this cycle and never stopping, even though it may appear to be like we're enjoying if we're on the top. So I remember when Harisori Prabhu was here, then there was class, Ekadasi class Prabhupada was giving, that we should approach Krishna and his direct representatives and not the demigods. So in this purport, Prabhupada says here that he's talking about the eternal associates of the Lord, and it says there, sometimes they come, however, they come by the order of the Lord, not to hold an administrative post, but to associate with the Lord in person to propagate the message of God. So people generally who worship the demigods, they asking for something material. So I was listening to this class by one devotee at the ISKCON Radha Govinda Temple in Mangalore, which is on this exact verse, and I'll basically repeat all the things he mentioned in the class that's pertaining to Srila Prabhupada's purport, because he just succinctly gave the whole class and just delivered the message very clearly. I was feeling very enlivened in that association on YouTube. So, and that class he gave a year ago. So the demigods, Harisori Prabhu was saying that, yes, they are representatives of the Lord, but they're given at administrative posts. And in this temple in the ISKCON Radha Govinda temple in Mangalore, the devotee was mentioning how even the administrators, the demigods, just like the ministers in the government, they're still within the jurisdiction of their country or within this material world or this material cage. So even they um, cannot give deliverance from this cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. So that was the point that Harisori Prabhu was making, that yes, we respect the demigods, but we need to understand that they can't deliver us from this cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. We can only approach the bona fide representatives of Krishna coming down from the disciplic chain, just like the teachers coming down from Krishna and the knowledge is descending to us. So in this purport, it mentions that Yamaraj, he is one of the eternal associates, and it's talking about the 12 Mahajans. So Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajans. In Canto 6, Chapter 3, there was a time when it was when he got a second chance, Ajamil. The Yamadutas, they were sent. The Yamadutas are the servants or representatives of Yamaraj. So we understand that Vidura in his previous life, he was Yamaraj. So the servants of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, they went to get Ajamil, But we understand that Ajamil, just by chanting the name of the Lord Narayan just once, he was given a second chance. Prabhupada wrote a book called Second Chance. He was doing all sorts of illicit activities. Even at the age of around 75, he was engaging in sex life, and he had, around the age of 80, he had a 5-year-old son. By some good fortune and mercy of the devotees, he named his son Narayan. So when he chanted the name of his son Narayan, then immediately then the memory came back of his previous activities that he did in devotional service. So the Yamadutas were very angry and they went to Yamaraj. So that chapter 3 in Canto 6, it's entitled Yamaraj instructs his messengers. So in text 20 to 21, because they were very angry in a kind of, they were upset because they assumed that Yamaraj was the all-in-all controller. So that verse, it mentions the 12 Mahajans, and it's always auspicious to chant the names of the devotees and Krishnas. So it's Swayambhu Narado Shambhu Kumaro Kapilo Manu Pralado Janako Bhishmo Balir Sakir Vayam. So who can remember some of the Mahajans from that verse? Yes, the great Bali Maharaj and Bhishmadev, Narada, yes, Shukadev Goswami. That's yes, Swayambhuva Manu. So Sukadeva was called by Sakira. Yes, Prahlad Maharaj, Kapila, Janak Maharaj. Thank you. Pardon? Yes, Shambhu, Shiva. Yes, so it says Lord Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, Grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and I, Yamaraj, myself know the real religious principle. My dear servants, this transcendental religious principle, which is known as Bhagavata Dharma, or surrender unto the Supreme Lord and love for Him, is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is very confidential and difficult for ordinary human beings to understand, but if by chance one fortunately understands it, he is immediately liberated, and thus he returns home back to Godhead. So in this translation, it says that if by chance one fortunately understands it. So what is that chance? That second chance? Yes, thank you, Yadunandan Prabhu. So that second chance is given when we take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So Guru is the spiritual master, Sadhu are the devotees, and the Shastra are the scriptures. So by following the instructions, when Janananda Maharaj was here, he was mentioning how we have this knowledge, but then we need to apply the knowledge in order to get the benefit of that knowledge. We may be able to quote many verses, or even externally we may be doing the service, but if our heart is not trying to go deeper and being introspective in our practice, then it will still just remain on the surface, just like in the ocean. The example is given that when there's a big, like a tornado or big waves coming, what happens on the ocean? Tsunami, yes. And if one dives deep, like the little fishes, they can dive deep. They're not affected by the surface when they're closer to the surface of the ocean. They're not affected by it because they're diving deep. So similarly, if we dive deep in this transcendental knowledge and we practice sincerely, then we're not affected externally by what's going on, even though, you know, we are in the material world and things are happening. Even us as aspiring devotees, we go through trials and tribulations. We have our own demons and we have our own struggles that we're working through. But I remember Vaisheshika Prabhu, I listened to his Fan the Spark on Facebook. He was saying that steadiness can't be imitated. So the The sincerity comes up when one is steady in one's devotional practice, one's sadhana and service, because you can't fake steadiness. He mentions that. We can't fake steadiness. And how can we get that steadiness is by um, understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it's not for external reasons, because even in our own lives we see sometimes we are doing the externals but we're not feeling it because we're not going deeper. Sometimes we may be going in automatic pilot and doing things mechanically. So the scriptures are here to teach us that Prabhupada is so kind and merciful that he has brought this knowledge to the West. So I just want to read this about Prabhupada's in ISKCON Desire Tree. There's devotees who gathered some quotes from the Shastras talking about Srila Prabhupada's coming to the material world. So in this purport, it's talking about Shakta, Avesha, Avatars. So Shakti and Avesha. So Shakti means the potency, the empowerment given by the Lord through the practice and the sincerity and the qualities that one develops by serving these great devotees and Krishna. So Prabhupada is a Shakta Avesha avatar. So it's there's some prophecies that were written in I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the, it says more Senapati Bhakta. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he had when he was writing some translations on Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's saying that Lord Chaitanya predicted this, that more Senapati Bhakta, more means mine, Senapati means soldier, and Bhakta is a devotee. So a devotee soldier will come and distribute this knowledge all over the world. Because Lord Chaitanya said, Priti Vite Nagaradi, Priti Vite, Priti Vite Nagaradi Gram. So he wanted this knowledge to be spread all over the world, not just in India. So in this article, ISKCON Desire Tree, it says that idam sthanam parityajya videsham gamyate maya. I will leave this place, Vrindavan, and travel to foreign lands. Bhakti Devi is speaking to Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam Mahatmyam. It says the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahatmyam, the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is a section of the Padma Purana. It tells the story of how bhakti, that's devotion, can be revived in Kali Yuga through recital of Srimad Bhagavatam. When Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan and came to America, it is significant that his only possession was a trunk containing the first volumes of his Srimad Bhagavatam, which he considered his most significant, which he considered his most important work. It is also significant that he instituted daily recitation of the Bhagavatam as a foundation of the temple program, and that Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of Krishna book was the first of Srila Prabhupada's books to be distributed in large quantities. Until Srila Prabhupada came west, devotional service, bhakti, had never been successfully introduced in foreign lands. So in this purport, it's talking about, Prabhupada doesn't mention himself out of his humility, but it says there that Shakti Avatar is an empowered personality. So it's not just an ordinary person who's given a post. This transcendental knowledge has to come through empowerment by the Lord and his representatives. So in that verse, it was talking about how Prabhupada institutionalized this and created this program for us that we can be purified. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.43, it says, Krishnesvadamo bhagate dharma gnano tibi saha kavu nashta drishyam esha purnarko adunu. Lunodita. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So even though some people may say that, oh, Prabhupada is not here, or the great Bhagavatas, Vidura, Uddhava, Yamaraj, they are not here. But actually, they are here in the pages of Bhagavatam. Actually, we are even more fortunate because in the time when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was there, there was no translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vaisheshika Prabhu was saying in his classes that we have access to the full knowledge. This treasure is so easily accessible to us. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is all accessible to us. All we need to do is just take advantage of this knowledge, associate with devotees, serve in the association of devotees, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then it's saying that Lord Chaitanya, speaking of the reason for his descent, taking the sharp sword of the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Nam Sankirtan, I will root out and destroy the demoniac mentality in the hearts of all the conditioned souls. So in Kali Yuga, in previous ages, there were devotees and the demons were separate, but in Kali Yuga, we have this demoniac propensity in our heart, and we also are trying to serve Srila Prabhupada, so we also have the divine qualities. So by chanting these holy names of the Lord, we don't have to do anything separately, but by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just by chanting these holy names that have descended directly from the spiritual world, our heart becomes cleansed. And also by eating the remnants or the foodstuffs, the blessed food that's offered to the Lord, our heart becomes purified. So by doing that, then we are purifying and cleansing that demoniac mentality in our hearts and minds, so that we can progress on going back home, back to Godhead. And in that verse it says, Yadi papi chadi dharma dure deshayaya mora senapati bhakta yaibe tataya. If some sinful people escape and giving up religious principles go to far off countries, then my senapati bhakta will come at that time to give them Krishna consciousness. Senapati, a military field commander, Bhakta, a devotee, Lord Chaitanya will empower his own devotee to spread Krishna consciousness around the world. And we see that Srila Prabhupada is that Senapati Bhakta who came to the West and delivered, and the movement is growing more and more, even though Srila Prabhupada is not here because of the sincerity of his disciples and grand disciples, great grand disciples. So, Srila Prabhupada, we have so much easy access to Srila Prabhupada, this morning program, Mangal Aarti, chanting in the Association of Devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class, Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's so accessible to us, but we don't, because it's so accessible, sometimes, I guess, speaking for myself, we think that, oh, it's just another day, maybe I might miss Mangal Aarti, or I might miss, class, unless, of course, someone's got other commitments, work or other commitments, but it's so accessible to us that we shouldn't think that it's take it for granted, because it's so special and it's so powerful that we can go back home, back to Godhead. Even within our community, we saw our own Venugopal Prabhu, who's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He did a lot of service for Srila Prabhupada, and towards the end of his life, he was main service was looking after the cows on New Govardhan. And when he left his body, there were external signs that of his auspicious passing. There was a sun shower and there was a double rainbow. So we see that even in this lifetime, even in this age, that we can attain that opportunity of going back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada and his disciples are also showing us how we can go back home, back to Godhead. So in this class in ISKCON New Radha Govinda in Mangalore, this devotee was talking about the song, O he Vaishnava Thakura Duyaro Sagore Edase Koruna Puri. So these Vaishnava Acharyas, this Vaishnava Thakura, we sing this song when the previous Acharyas have left their body. Then we sing this song that, oh, great devotees of the Lord, you are so merciful, you are an ocean of mercy. So we see, by this song it's telling us, and also in the Guru Vashtakam prayers, the 8th verse, it says, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada, oh, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. So in that verse, it's talking about how the spiritual master is not different from the Lord because he is delivering us from the cycle of birth and death. So by his mercy, we approach those dear representatives of the Lord, the Vaishnava Thakuras, who are an ocean of mercy. They can deliver us from this vast ocean of material existence and take us back home, back to Godhead. So we just need to catch hold of their lotus feet and pray to them. I find myself sometimes I struggle with my own demons, and then we have everything here, but sometimes we think, oh, Krishna, please help me. And sometimes you come to a point where your mind is just giving you such, it's so hard sometimes, and then you just pray and you really deeply pray that Krishna, please help me, and you really chant Krishna's names, you try and chant Krishna's names deeply, then we get this momentary taste, and then it goes away. Sometimes it's because it's like what Vaisheshika Prabhu says, we need to, Krishna's giving us a glimpse and a taste, but we also need to do our part. We need to work hard. Just like in the example of the Damodar Leela, when Krishna was being naughty and his mother, out of love, she wanted to teach her child that you can't do naughty things, so she wanted to tie him up. But every time she gathered so many ropes, they were always 2 fingers too short. So and then finally she was able to tie him. So those 2 fingers represent our own effort and also Krishna's mercy, the devotee's mercy. So we need to do our part. Krishna, sometimes we're in a dark pit and we don't see any light, then we really beg Krishna and beg his dear devotees, please help me, please help me. Then we get a bit of that light, and then we get that taste, and we get some of our hope back that they are here with us. But we also need to work hard because it's not something cheap. Just like you have a diamond is not easily accessible to everyone. Someone has to work really hard to earn that diamond. So we understand that there's no material um, barrier to devotional service, but that earning is spiritual earning. We earn that through spiritual practice, through serving the devotees, and then we can purchase that rare diamond. So we see that in the purport it's talking about it's the demigod's post. So when Krishna's eternal associates come, it's not just some posts they come, just like the post of Indra. Indra comes and he takes the post of the in charge of the demigods and in charge of the rains. But it's not like that. When the devotees come, they come to serve Krishna and to associate with him, just like when Lord Brahma went to the milk ocean to pray to Mahavishnu that, there's so many demoniac persons on earth, please come and save us. And then he was given the message from within his heart. And Krishna or Vishnu said that all the demigods must go down to earth and take birth there. So they took birth. So the pure devotees, they don't fall down from the spiritual world. They come to the material world to serve Krishna and to serve his mission. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he's a pure devotee. He's a direct associate of Krishna, but he never revealed himself who he was. But sometimes we would hear some things in the ISKCON GBC SPT. SPT is a strategic planning team. Yes, they compiled some. There's one devotee who Adita Guna Mataji's husband. What is his name? Oh, he was doing some interviews with the devotee who made the Prabhupada series on. He was interviewing all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and then he had the different qualities of Srila Prabhupada. And one of them, one devotee revealed that Prabhupada, I don't know if it was Bhavananda Prabhu, where he says that Prabhupada was actually, he's a cowherd boy, but in those GBC SPT YouTube videos, it was saying that the disciples were mentioning that he's a very confidential devotee of Krishna, and he didn't want to come, but Krishna asked him to come. He says, "No, you have to come down and spread this Krishna consciousness and to deliver all the people." So Prabhupada came, and he was never affected by in the material world. He was a pure devotee from the beginning. He was he's the Sadhaka Bhakta, and he's the Nitya Siddha. Yes, he was a Nitya Siddha Bhakta. So he was always pure. He was never conditioned by the material world, unlike us. So even though Prabhupada, he came, he was also, we heard that before he came to the West, he was trying to distribute his Back to Godhead magazines, and he was gored by a bull. So even he suffered in the material world so much. So yesterday, Ikshwaku Prabhu was giving the class, and he was talking about how in Indian society and traditional societies, the mother, she knows that her son really loves his wife. So in order to teach the wife, she doesn't directly teach the wife of her son, her daughter-in-law. She teaches her daughter-in-law through her own daughter, and she chastises her daughter. But the daughter of the mother, she doesn't take it personally. She doesn't become offended. Just like even Queen Kunti and the dear devotees of Krishna, they suffered so much, but never for a moment did they say, "Krishna, why are you doing this? I'm going to give up your service." They never ever thought that. Their mood was just like in Bhagavatam where Lord Brahma says, "Tattenu kampam sushamikshamano mujana evatma." So it's the devotee always sees that I'm suffering because of my past sinful activities, but by Krishna's mercy, He is reducing whatever I am meant to suffer by His causeless mercy. And also, whatever great things a devotee is able to do, it's only by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna and the devotees that we are able to do anything of any value in society. So it's also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the source of all opulence, whatever we have, and we give credit to him and his devotees. If anyone compliments us, we understand that it's only by the mercy of our spiritual master and the association of our Siksha Gurus that we have come where we are at, and we should always maintain and pray for humility that I'm only like Kadamakanana Swami says, I am the product of the devotee's mercy. Then we can go back home, back to Krishna. There's this principle, this quality of dainya, utter humility, that I am here because of Krishna and his devotees. So I'll end there if anyone has any questions or comments or corrections. Manibanda Prabhu.
Sweet Christ. On this topic of Prabhupada Shakti-Vaishnava, it's an interesting topic. As far as I'm aware, GBC haven't made any official statement on Prabhupada's ontological position, but I've spoken to Banu Swami at length on this topic, and in the Laghu Bhagavatam by Goswami, there is a list of Shakti-Vaishnavas given and the qualifications. And like Narada Muni, Prithvi Maharaj, Lord Buddha, Ananta Sage, there's a list there. So one of the qualifications is that they have eternal bodies. And Shakti-Vaishnavas are eternal personalities. It's not that you become a Shakti-Vaishnavas, you're eternally a Shakti-Vaishnavas. So, Banu Swami's, at least his conclusion, is that we can identify Srila Prabhupada as an eternal associate of Krishna, empowered with certain devotees or opulences to perform that service. So, he considers we should be a little bit cautious presenting Prabhupada, as much as we'd like to think of Prabhupada as a Shakti-Vaishnava, from a Sastric point of view, we can't really support that. So that's his conclusion anyway.
Thank
Of
you.
course, it depends what definition we want to give Shakti-Vaishnava, but based on Sastra, it's quite clear.
Thank you. Anything else? Krishna Kirtan Prabhu.
I'm trying to find a quote for it. So it's just in the Sri Chaitanya Samrita, it does mention in the how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual consciousness in three different ways. One was directly himself, another way here, and another one even power into the body. So I guess that's what's being put into these purport that Chaitanya does power. Whether Sakta Vaishnava memories incarnations doesn't mean that less or greater in the sense that you say greater. It comes directly from below. But anyway, it does mention, I'm trying to find the exact passage for it. Yeah, that's example. That's good. With all the evangelists, they're also like that. The deliverance, he delivered them in three ways. The Lord delivered fallen souls in some places by meeting them directly, another places by empowering a pure devotee, and still in other places by prayer before someone himself. So we can understand Srila Prabhupada's direct and power of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's any way you can spread which is means. So that as far as the terminology of it, definitely Srila Prabhupada's power.
Yes. Thank you. Nandu?
Just like what we were talking about earlier, we worship, we feel proud here, of course, and like we don't worship the other demigods. But one would say she was the greatest devotee of Krishna. One we worship Shiva as well. We worship Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, I think that was similar to what I was asking in that the Ekadasi class. And Hari Soul Prabhu gave the answer that depends also on the mood of the person who's worshipping. Just like Brikasura, the demon, he was cutting off pieces of his flesh and he was worshipping Lord Shiva because he wanted a material benediction. But we understand that Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He's a great Vaishnava. So it depends also on the consciousness and mood of when one is approaching. Just like uh, the spiritual master Sherpa, but if one approaches, I've seen sometimes senior devotees, when devotees approach them, they say, "Oh, I'm chanting 16 rounds. I'm doing this. I'm doing that," and they can see that person's not open um, to correction or to go further and work on themselves. Then they just say, "Yes, yes, yeah, you're doing well. Okay," so they're not going to give that knowledge if we don't inquire. So it depends on the recipient and the inquirer. So just like in the sages of Namisharanya, or even when Shukadev Goswami was instructing Parikshit Maharaj, there was so many people in the audience, different consciousness. So everyone got something different, but the highest knowledge was also given. So it depends on our own consciousness and how we approach those personalities. If we approach Lord Shiva as a representative of the Lord, then we get the blessings. But it's not that we go and do all Shiva worship and everything, because that's not what is given by Shiva Prabhupada. That's my understanding. So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shiva Prabhupada ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai.